Hello and welcome to the logic of it all. In this video, we are going to learn about the converse and the contrapositive of implications. Let's start with the converse. So we have this implication if P then Q. Then its converse will be the implication if Q then P. Now, if you think about it, and you don't need to know logic for this, if you think about your everyday use of conditional statements, if you converse the statement, and instead of saying if P then Q, you say if Q then P, then the new implication means something completely different. Now, in logic, when we talk about meaning of a proposition, what it means is the truth value of that proposition. So basically what we are saying here is that the truth value of an implication and its converse may not be the same. And this is very easy to see. For example, if we consider the case where P is true and Q is false, then the first implication, if P then Q, is going to be false because if true then false is false. But the converse says if Q then P, which means if false then true, which is true. So as you can see, in this scenario, the truth value of the implication and its converse is not the same, right? So one is true, the other one is false. Now, to put this into a context, let's replace P and Q with actual statements. So P is the statement, it is raining, and Q is the statement, the pavement is wet. In that case, the first implication, if P then Q, says if it is raining, then the pavement is wet, which is true. But its converse says something different. It says if the pavement is wet, then it is raining, which may not be true because it could be that the pavement is wet for a different reason. Here's a more concrete example. Consider the implication if a number is greater than 10, then it is positive. It's a conditional statement, it's an implication, and it is true because if something is greater than 10, it has to be positive. But if you think about its converse will be if a number is positive, then it's greater than 10, which is not necessarily true because 2 is positive, but it's not greater than 10. 5 is positive, but it's not greater than 10, and so on. So again, the takeaway from this slide is the truth value of an implication and its converse may not be the same. And again, to emphasize on this, we can draw the truth table for these. So we have 4 possible scenarios. Each row represents one of those. P and Q can both be true. It could be that P is true and Q is false, and so on. And then if you compute the truth value of if P then Q and its converse, you'll see that there are cases, the second row and the third row, where the truth value of the implication and its converse are not the same. Now, the second point we are talking about in this video is called contrapositive. So we saw that from an implication, if P then Q, we can create another implication, the converse, if Q then P. The problem was that their truth value were not the same. However, there is another implication that we can build from P and Q that has the same truth value as if P then Q. And that is called the contrapositive of the implication. So if you remember the pavement example, our original implication is if the pavement is wet, then it's raining. Now, if you think about it, we can say the same sentence, the same conditional statement in a different way. We can say, if the pavement is not wet, then it is not raining, right? So we have a conditional statement or an implication that means the same as if P then Q. And this is called the contrapositive of the implication. Okay, so the contrapositive of if P then Q is if not Q, then not P. So not only we reverse the order between P and Q, we also negate both of them. And this is called the contrapositive. Okay, so the contrapositive of if A then B is you replace A with B and B with A, and also you negate both of them. And we will see in the next slide that their truth value is always going to be the same. So this implication and this implication, which is contrapositive, are going to mean the same thing, which means that they always have the same truth value. Okay, now if you remember the other example that we had for converse, which was if a number is greater than 10, then it is positive. We saw that this is true and its converse may not be true, but how about its contrapositive? What is the contrapositive of this statement? If a number is greater than 10, then it is positive. And if you think about it, the contrapositive will be if a number is not positive, then it's not greater than 10. And as you can see, this is also a true statement, because if something is not positive, it means that it's either 0 or negative, and then in that case, it cannot be greater than 10. Now, to make this more concrete, we can take a look at the truth table for the contrapositive. So as you can see, again, we have 4 possible cases. So our truth table have 4 rows, and we can look at the truth value of the negation of P and the negation of Q, which is basically whatever P and Q are, we reverse them. From there, we can construct if P then Q and is contrapositive. And you can see that on every row, they have the same truth value, which means that they are equivalent.